Society of Los Angeles, Reverend, fellow consuls, fellow Balts, and guests. I am honored to be in your midst to celebrate your 105th anniversary. I would like to express congratulations from the Latvian Society of Los Angeles and from the Latvian government, represented by our ambassador in Washington, D.C., Māris Selga. Estonia prevails. There are many days when I just can't believe that Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are free again. There were days when we could not display our flags, we could not sing our national anthems. But we are fortunate to be able to celebrate this day now that the Baltics have regained their independence. How the world has changed since your last Independence Day. Given the current events in Ukraine, it is difficult to be cheerful. All Balts must fully support Ukraine's desire to be a free nation. The Baltics stand with Ukraine. Since coming to power, Putin has made no secret that he considers the disintegration of the Soviet Union to be the biggest tragedy of the last century. He has made it clear that he would like Ukraine and the Baltics back in Russia's sphere of influence. We Balts and Ukraine share many similarities in the geography and history of our nations. We both have fertile and relatively flat lands, which are wedged between major powers, which have repeatedly chosen to invade us over the centuries. Our countries have suffered from Russian and German invasions. Our people have been brutalized, starved, raped, deported, and murdered. Attempts have been made to destroy our culture and language, yet we prevail. Ukraine, Latvia, and Estonia declared independence from Russia in 1918. Our independence and sovereignty were guaranteed by an international treaty, which was also signed by the Russians. Yet the Soviets continued to fight, and in 1921, the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic was established. Estonia did enjoy a brief 22 years of independence before it was again invaded by the Soviets in 1940. And yet, they stayed as a Soviet republic for the next 50 years. In 1991, Ukraine and Estonia regained their independence. Since regaining independence, Estonia and Ukraine have taken different paths towards democracy. Estonia took early steps at full integration with the West. Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians were very fortunate to be accepted into NATO and into the EU in 2004, while Russia was still relatively weak. Had the Baltic nations not joined NATO and the EU, I have no doubt that we would have fallen to Putin before he would have turned his attention to Ukraine. The current war is not going the way Russia had envisaged. Most of us around the globe were surprised by Russia's military incompetence, but not by its cruelty against civilians. My 96-year-old mother is a survivor of the 1940 invasion of Latvia by the Soviets. When Russians returned in 1944, she and over 1 million others in Eastern Europe fled towards the West, towards freedom. She has frequently told me stories of Soviet cruelty, how the Russian soldiers, as she called it, were just pigs, stealing, raping, disrespecting human rights, and killing people. When the current war broke out, daily dispatches from Ukraine were too much for my mother to bear, and she could not watch the news. Like most Balts, she's made donations towards the Ukrainian efforts, and she asks me on a daily basis how the war is going. The Ukrainian government needs our help. The Estonian government stands with Ukraine. Since the beginning of the war, Estonia has been one of the top donors when it comes to proportion of their GDP. Since last February, Estonia has donated approximately $400 million in aid to Ukraine. About half of its defense budget has gone towards Ukraine, and about 1% of its GDP. We must all stand firm in our support of Ukraine, Russia must not be allowed to succeed in its efforts to subjugate a neighbor. A healthy, stable, and free Ukraine is a crucial counterweight to Russia's influence in Europe. A non-aggressive Russia is the key to all of our independence and prosperity in the Baltics. Thank you, Renee, for this invitation to be with you on this special day. I wish all of you a very pleasant Estonian Independence Day celebration and ask that you not forget the Baltics in your everyday lives. God bless the Baltics and protect us all. And may God grant us an end to this horrible war in Europe. Jumal omistagu esti.